Section 10, Al-Anfal, verse 41 to At-Tawbah, verse 93. The section continues with Suratul Anfal by introducing guidelines on how wealth captured in war is to be distributed. The divine will in ensuring Badr takes place is also discussed, while at the same time an absolute instruction of obedience to Allah and the Messenger is given, by which means victory comes to believers alone. The surah continues by urging the believers to go to war, not fearing the overwhelming odds stacked against them. The surah concludes by instructing the believers to support each other due to the bond of faith that exists between them. Then comes Surah Tawbah, which is one of the last surahs revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, dealing with relations with unbelievers and the war against Romans at Tabuk. The surah begins without invoking the names of mercy, which begin every other surah, for the reason stated by Ali that this surah is about war. The surah begins in the harshest of tones by disavowing any connections with the unbelievers and stating that the unbelievers in Mecca were not worthy of having custody of the sacred house. The surah continues by reminding the believers of the divine help that came during many wars and brings a brief reminder of the perversion of the belief of the people of the book who wish to extinguish the light of faith. In addition, the states of their leaders are highlighted. People driven by desire to amass wealth, and warning is given of the consequences in hellfire for those who refuse to pay zakat. As the discussion begins about the great expedition to Tabuk with all the hardship involved, Allah takes the believers back to memories of the migration, reminding the believers that when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was alone with his companion Abu Bakr, he was with them. The memorable words of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam are recorded for posterity. Do not grieve, Allah is with us. The exposure of the hypocrites now begins. They refuse to go to war, bringing all kinds of excuses, and although the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam accepted their excuses, Allah exposed them. Then more and more of their evils are exposed. Their planning against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, stirring trouble between the believers, rejoicing in the difficulties of the believers, and criticizing the wealth distribution. In truth, it was best that they did not go to battle, as they would have caused innumerable problems in the ranks of the believers. They are further exposed in how they spoke ill of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and mocked revelation. Towards the end of the section, Allah guides the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in dealing with the death of the leader of the hypocrites, not to ask forgiveness for him and not to pray his funeral prayer. The section ends by describing the true believers who were not able to go forth to Tabuk because of their extreme poverty, who cried when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them he had nothing to help them with.